So politically wise, I've been on a border commission for 12 or 13 or 14 years. Started off, my political career started off with parking downtown because I was with Milwaukie Lumber at the time, and they were going to build Main Street Village. And it was a big conversation about parking, as it never changes. But my first meeting was Jim Bernard and our mayor at the time, and the developer were sitting there with Katie, our planning director at the time. And I was the only person in the audience, so it was, but if you remember, it was kind of like in council chambers, so it's a big space. And I piped up a one-word statement, and everybody turned around and stared at me like I was a ghost, and basically bad-mouthed me for my statement. And I was like, wow, now I know why people don't like doing this kind of stuff. But I stuck with it, and I was on the Design and Landmarks Commission, and in fact, I was the chair when the light rail development was coming in through downtown. I sat on the Citizens Action Committee for the light rail as well, and then I was promoted to Planning Commissioner, and I have been serving on that for the last 7 years as well. The DLC was one of these great things because it actually brought me down to the Milwaukie Museum, and that's how I got started with the Milwaukie Museum as my volunteer life. And we were here doing a project on historic homes, and I fell in love with this place when we first got here. And at the time, what we refer to as the older generation now, people in their 80s and 90s weren't willing to kind of maintain the museum anymore. And so the younger generation, people from 50 to 65, said, hey, you know what, we'll help run it. And it has become a passion and a dream and a love. Some people would call me now probably the local historian of Milwaukie. I know more information about this town than I ever thought that I could ever gather. But it has led to so many great and wonderful things and connections. So I'm also part of the Milwaukie Environmental Stewards Group. And our big deal is we have a styrofoam collection site here, trying to keep the styrofoam out of the trash pile, and hopefully we'll be having a sustainability fair every year with recycling and activities and that kind of stuff. I also am a member of the Elks Lodge, and that is a great organization as well. Not only do they have a bar and food and pool tables, a swimming pool, bowling alley, and lots of fun stuff to do, but they do a lot of great things for the community, and they raise a lot of money for a lot of different organizations, specifically vendors, food drives, and those sorts of things.
Very busy. So tell us a little bit about where you came from, and, you know, were there similarities where you came from to the Milwaukie thing that makes you feel comfortable?
So I was raised in Rockford, Illinois. Rockford, Illinois is probably known best for being the shittiest town in America, or the worst town in America, if you'd like to say that. It was the second largest city in Illinois at the time, about 100,000 people. And so it was certainly culturally mixed. Wide variety of people. Then I went to college out at Fort Collins, Colorado, which at that time was probably 50,000 people, and the student population was 15. So it basically, it was, the other big industry there was a Budweiser plant. And so that was a little bit of a smaller town, but it still had cultural because of the school there. And that's where I fell in love with mountains, whitewater rafting, hiking. I know my shape doesn't show it now, but all the sort of cool, fun outdoor stuff. And so a buddy of mine, we graduated, and a buddy of mine says, hey, I'm moving to Portland, you want to go? And I said, sure, why not? So I packed up the car and arrived here during the Great Flood of 1996, and I'll never forget. The Blue Mountains, I mean, I had a little trailer behind me, and I was driving a little Toyota pickup truck. with a sport wheel on it with no power steering. It's a thrill. But I was coming over the blues and I almost got stuck. And I thought I was going to be able to make the trip from Colorado to here, but the blues kind of wiped me out, so I spent a night in a hotel. Finally got here, and I come down. I was going to go stay at my buddy's apartment, and he lived on the corner of 12th and Sherwood and 205 there. And I come driving down in, and there used to be a Clark's Lumber there. By where the Fred Meyer is, and the lumber was floating around like all over the place, and like the street was like 2 feet in water, and I said to myself, I said, man, I know it rains a lot here, but you would think that they would figure this shit out, figure this stuff out, be able to put in drainage and stuff. And beyond that, it took me 3 weeks to a month to realize that all gas stations were full serve, that there wasn't anything as a self-serve gas station. So it drove me nuts. I kept trying to find one and spending a lot of dollar bills on tipping, because that's what you do when you pull into a full serve, and finally learned that lesson. But the one of the nice things that I really like about Milwaukie is I guess, is the closeness that we all have, and the availability to be able to share your opinion, and the availability to make a difference in your community. I really do feel that my time that has been spent on the boards and commissions have actually made a difference for the city, and even though that my opinion is not always accepted, I think that that these boards and commissions, we really kind of hammer things out, come up with the best choices for the city. With the museum, we get out there and we try to do as many events as possible and spread the great word of the city of Milwaukie and its history. And then, of course, with the Environmental Stewards Group, it's amazing how easy it is in a smaller town to be able to link up with other businesses and other mutual partners to make everybody's dream kind of come true and come to fruition.
Very interesting. So with you being as involved as you are with the city and how it works like that, if you had the magic wand, what's the one thing you would change?
That's interesting. So I am not an anti-density person, and maybe it's because, I really didn't move into Milwaukie until 97, so I don't have this backdrop of history of downtown being vibrant and full of life. I do see the key of it is that you need some population down there to kind of make that happen. The changeover from Milwaukee Bay from what it was when I first came here, it was McLaughlin was all store lined. There was like a marina there, and then of course the Pooh Station, and then just kind of this weird long driveway that we have Vic's Tavern, and then this big weird long driveway that just kind of dumped into the river. The change that has happened over there, even though it's still cut off from really downtown, but it is the dream and the vision of making it Milwaukee's playground, I think is beautiful and wonderful. I also like the fact that that there are still spaces out here to be developed, but really it's actually almost all built out. So in the long run, your residential neighborhoods are pretty much going to look like your residential neighborhoods for until the latest and greatest invention, or until they are no longer have value, I guess.
So you came here for the flood. Where did you move to Milwaukie right then? Or did you move somewhere else
I lived downtown.
Okay.
First on like 23rd and Kearney. That was fun, being a young single man. And then I moved in a little bit further down Burnside to like 14th and Burnside, which is always fun, within walking distance of everything that you could ever do. And I worked out at TVBS there for a Tualatin Valley Building Supply. which is no longer in existence, out in Aloha area. From there, then I started working for Copeland Lumber, which is no longer extinct, and I know it seems like I run lumber companies down to the ground, but trust me, it's not my fault. I worked for Copeland Lumber for a while, and then I lived in Lake Oswego, kind of on the river, in an apartment complex there. And then, I met my ex-wife, and we lived in Beaverton for a while, and I convinced myself that the hour-and-a-half drive in the morning and the hour-and-a-half drive to get back home from Milwaukie back and forth was a great way for me to unwind until I moved into my house in Milwaukie, and I'm like, it takes me 2 minutes to get home. I was burning a lot of daylight. So yeah, ever since then, that's why I ended up moving here, because my job was here. And when I first moved here, I said, man, this compared to Selwood and the way that Portland's growing, this place is a gold mine. Man, my house is going to go up in value like you can't believe. It's going to balloon. Of course, that didn't really happen until, 2018, when the houses really started to balloon. But I made a nice little profit on the house that we sold, and enough to be able to build one here in Milwaukie. And when my wife and I decided where do we want to live, we said Milwaukie. We didn't want to go anywhere else. It was hard to find the house that we wanted in Milwaukie, and that's why we ended up buying a lot and building the house.
Well, you don't have any children here.
No,
so you can't talk about the schools or too much like that. What else would you like to let us know about you there as we kind of bring this?
Oh, I don't have really much more to say. I am reserved and forever and ever on a lot of videos, and you'll see me on a lot of videos on the Milwaukie YouTube channel and on what is that called? On the Milwaukie History YouTube channel as well. Check those out. And I just want to say happy birthday, Milwaukie. I know I haven't been here for 120 years, but sometimes it feels like it. And I'm very proud and look forward to many more birthdays with you.
Hey,
Good.